How to eat less bread. If I had a nickel for every time someone told me this was the number one thing that they had a hard time letting go of, or the obstacle that got in the way of them in their health and fitness goals, I could probably buy a lot of bread with those nickels. But yeah, let's talk about it. Bread is delicious, bread is addictive, it's a comfort food for many of us. When shelter in place hit, it was the first thing I was like, I'm gonna take my liberations with this. And unfortunately, it is the thing that causes people a lot of problems later on from doing it too much. So let's talk about it and what some things are we can do to help you get on a better relationship with it to help you reach your goals. Step 1, remove the bread. Get it out of your house. That's right, take it. Just kidding, of course. However, believe it or not, this is kind of the official recommendation that a lot of the main resources for paleo and how to get on a healthy lifestyle, there is a certain validity to the cut the cord or cold turkey approach. However, we need to have some other tactics for those for whom, like for example, if you live with a bunch of other people who are not willing to do that, then how are you going to navigate it? What other tactics are there besides just completely changing your environment, which might not always be realistic or appropriate for you? So let's get into some of that stuff. For the psychology of behavior change, we do start with goal setting, and most of you know how to do this. You know, what is my goal? Oh, my goal is to lose 10 pounds or just to eat less bread. That is the what. Okay. However, too often we see people stop there or basically just get into the mechanics of how to accomplish the what instead of digging a little deeper, okay? So of course there is the how we're gonna accomplish it, but really importantly is the why, okay? And we don't wanna just go one layer deep here. I find often at least 2 or 3 times, kind of like that annoying kid. Maybe you were that kid back in the day, but that just keeps asking why? Why is this your goal? Why is it important to you? Oh, it's important to you because you want to reduce your chances of your diabetes getting worse, okay? Why is that important to you? It may seem obvious, but the health consequences of untreated or unaddressed diabetes have long-term implications. What's the problem with that? Well, I want to live a long time. Why do I want to live a long time? Because my kids, I want to be around for my kids in 10 years or 20 years to be able to spend time with them and enjoy life with them. Oh, okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting to some deep layers, and that is the stuff we have to address and write it down and make it visible, because that has the emotional power to overcome almost any obstacle, honestly. So we start with the what. We want to know how we're going to do it, but why is super duper important. And so take a moment to kind of do this exercise yourself and reflect on, whatever your goal is, including, something particularly challenging like reducing your bread intake or whatever it is that you find difficult to let go of. Let's get into the why on that. All right, so you've got your goal, you've gone a few layers deep, a few levels deep on your why. The next part that I find important is to acknowledge ahead of time the obstacles you expect to encounter. So, for example, my housemate or my partner likes to make bread and likes to make toast in the morning, and I find it really difficult to resist that, even though on my own I could not go down that route. Okay, so by acknowledging this up front, you get a chance to get ahead basically and not allow your reaction to something to take over when that happens, because you know it's gonna happen or you're aware that it can happen. So how will I deal with that when I encounter it? How will I manage it? What is something I can do differently when something is presented to me, when I find I'm in an environment that now is beyond my control The thing that I find addictive is right in front of me. How do I work around that? There could be so many different ways. You could go for a walk. You could have another snack that you enjoy that is healthy for you planned out. You could go do something else, basically, just to distract yourself and remove yourself from that environment just by thinking ahead of a little bit. But again, going a little deeper, I like to ask why again. You just keep asking why, basically. Why is it important to you that you figure out a workaround or a solution to this obstacle, this temptation? That's again gonna come back to why this is fitting in your bigger picture plan, okay? It may feel like a small thing in that moment, but remembering that this small thing fits into a larger picture of who you want to be and who you want to become and why you want to become that helps remind you that even this small thing is important and that you working to do your best in any situation around these obstacles is super important to you as well. All right, so by this point, you've written down your goals, you've written down a few levels of your why, you've addressed whatever obstacles you anticipate, how and why you'll work around them. That's a great first exercise. However, we find it's not enough to do this just once, okay? It's too easy to fall back into the things we've done for months and years in the past and forget about this whole like, oh, I set this goal and intention, understanding of why I need to do it. We need to have a reflecting time that basically boils down to a daily practice, okay? The way we're gonna make this stuff stick is through repetition. Okay, you can make yourself believe anything you want, positively or negatively, through repetition. Okay, it's kind of crazy actually, but it works. So it starts with every day or every time you're able to do this 3 or 4 times, whatever times a week. What is my goal? What is my first level of why? Okay, I want to reduce diabetes. I want to improve my health. And then the third layer that, it just depends on what you're about. I want to be around for my kids in 20 years, okay? That's your deep emotional why, okay? Maybe it can go a little deeper for you still in some specific way. But what we want to do is do this daily practice of reflecting, but kind of simplify it into a mantra. A mantra is a 1, 2, 3, or 4 word phrase that's easy to remember. And it's kind of a summary of everything we're talking about here, but that's easy to repeat and remember, okay? And usually I like to boil it down to whatever your why is and 1 or 2 layers deeper your why, okay? So I could just say health and kids, okay? And for me, or kids in 20 years, okay? Something a little more specific. So anytime you're running into that temptation, you can come back to the mantra. You say, oh, I want to be about my health and my kids. I want to be my health and my kids in 20 years. That gets you right into your deep emotional reasoning, your deep emotional why that can overpower the obstacle as you face it on a regular basis. So what I've started doing with a lot of people who struggle with this is having part of our practice, part even of our one-on-one sessions be, let's get our mantra down for today. It can change a little bit day to day, and let's get a few reps in of it, just saying it out loud, just writing it down, kind of like Bart Simpson at the chalkboard style. Just get it down and get some reps in, because that's going to help center you for what you're about, remind you of your purpose and intent for your life and for your goals, and that's going to help you overcome your obstacles in a very real and practical way that you can practice every day. Okay? So this is an exercise. It's like a 2 to 4 minute exercise to do every day. And it only takes like a couple weeks before you can start to feel your whole mindset and frame of being start to shift. Okay? So start with this exercise. And then the next part, I want to talk about how you can make it a little more front and center. And finally, I want to talk about visibility. So hopefully by this point, you've gone through that exercise of writing down your goals and your many layers of whys. You've created a system for you to make it a daily practice and revisiting it through your mantra. But really what we want is for something that you really believe in strongly and it's important to you, we want it to be highly visible and kind of percolate the many spaces and places in your life. So the simplest example is a whiteboard like this, or maybe more practically for those of you just having like Post-its at home, to just write your mantra on a Post-it, write your why on a Post-it, and just stick it on your fridge. Okay, that way it's just part of your normal everyday environment that you see this, and it's not something you have to
in the workplace,
make an effort finding a discreet place.
The great thing about this type of stuff is like
places. It's kind of only something that will be meaningful to you, like a mantra combined with your
mirror.
It's often it may only make sense for many of us who've gone out of the shower or just spending time and being like, oh, put it in your car, put it in the car window. You can make it into a great sticker or something. You know, use your artistic and creative side as well, of course. But really, really important that you make it highly visible to yourself so that when you walk around and navigate your day-to-day life, you have this constant reminder. Because again, it's only through repetition that this belief starts to really stick. Because it is a belief, and the more strongly you believe it, the more powerfully it will overcome that temptation to fall back into the delicious bread cycle. All right, I hope this has been really helpful for you guys. I know it's something we all struggle with, but yeah, you can take these principles and apply it to anything and run with it. All right, thanks for watching.